Hello, good afternoon here, and also good morning to some, and good evening to some of our audience around. And welcome everyone. And also, of course, we need to welcome our prestigious keynote speaker, Professor Keiko Ikeda today, and also for the audience joining us here and also globally. So first of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of us and also all of you join us today then. So co-organized by Research Management Office and Virtual Exchange Center from School of Continuing Education, Hong Kong Baptist University. And this summit aims to provide a dynamic forum for the exchange of insights, exemplar approaches, and innovative research in the realm of virtual exchange. It aims to foster collaborations and also share knowledge among dedicated scholars, practitioners, and also administrators around the world who are deeply committed to enriching the teaching and learning through virtual exchange. So we want to remind once again, our summit this year places particular emphasis on the theme of cultural exchange and global citizenship. So before we begin, let me say a hi to everyone. My name is Anna. I'm representing the Global Virtual Exchange Summit 2025 organizing committee. So it is our great honor to introduce our keynote speaker today, Professor Keiko Ikeda. Professor Ikeda is the Vice Director of Institute for Innovative Global Education and also a respected professor in the Division of International Affairs at Kansai University, Japan. Professor Ikeda serves as the Principal Project Manager for the Inter-University Exchange Programs, which support collaborative online international learning, which we name it usually COIL, with US universities, funded by the Japan's Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. And this project fosters a global career mindset among students. She is also involved in several other government-funded initiatives, including Japan Hoped for Innovative Global Education and the Osaka Social Impact Project, which further could contribute to advancing global education and social impact. So in the coming speech, Professor Ikeda will share us the importance of developing essential skills such as digital empathy, digital competencies, intercultural communications, and also how we can do more through global work collaboration with possible employability. Then she will also ask valuable insights that we can cultivate, make use of to prepare our students to be more ready for this increasingly connected world. So before we officially invite her, so I just want to remind that we will having a Q&A section at the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box, and we will have a dedicated Q&A sections at the end. So please denote that the section will be recorded to YouTube to share with more audience. And please make sure you mute, because it's webinar, it's okay. So now may you join me to warmly welcome our prestigious guest today and also our keynote speaker, Professor Keiko Ikeda from Kansai University, Japan. Professor Ikeda, please.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope you can see me. I'm hiding behind the podium for those who are in the physically present. Very nice to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I'd like to first congratulate on successful conference. Making it high flex, hybrid is extremely challenging. I've done it before and I failed miserably myself, but still at it. And I think this is all about how we do what we do, and virtual exchange being something that we're promoting in the community that we're about to build here. Let's congratulate on again and the great effort that you've done, Anna and her team, for doing this wonderfully. And thank you once again for having me here. All right, I'd like to start with my talk, which is a digital competency for global employability. And there's many of keywords here that I think that needs to have a little bit of explanation before I go on. So I'll start with that and then move on to talk about what are the education responsibility that we have as what we do, right? So I'll start with this. So I explore how global employability is evolving, driven by new communication and collaboration technologies. That's another player and a factor that I'm throwing in this talk as well. So there's the global employability and there's technology and future readiness and education responsibility. All these sort of key terms that I like to cover all, hopefully, in my talk. Let me first address why the global employability matters, why it matters, and what is global employability to start with. There are many ways to define it. I'm sure there are many people in the literatures talk about it, but at least in my view, three aspects that I like to bring out in terms of what global employability means for students. That's foremost the first, and then educators, us, and employers globally. So those three groups are the key players. And three things, if I were to bring up, that would be these. So one is skill alignment with the global market needs. Second would be cultural competence and adaptability. And then lastly, language skills and communication. I'd like to talk a bit more on each of them here. Let me start with the first one, skill alignment with global market needs. Right? From a global employability standpoint, aligning skills with international market needs, bringing the gaps between what employers worldwide demand for the students or future employees and what workforce offers. The World Economic Forum, for example, projecting by 2030, which is upcoming very soon, that 39% of a core job skill will be disrupted by trends like the AI, automation, and the global shifts. This is all the topics that we talk about all the time in education arena nowadays. Employers are increasingly valuing the hybrid skill set that combines advanced technology fluency, such as AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, etc., and so forth, with the durable human traits like the analytical thinking skills, resilience, leadership, communication, and adaptability. And the combination of the two, right? Not just technology, but human skills to go with it is a key theme that I'm going to focus more today. That's the first one. Second one is cultural competence and adaptability. These are key traits that employers value, especially in roles that require interaction with the global markets or multicultural teams. We all work not just in one country or with the same backgrounds. We work with international team members now. So multicultural teams is a key. Cultural competence and adaptability are fundamental and foundational to global employability, enabling individuals and teams to navigate and thrive in diverse work environments. Cultural competence encompasses a blend of awareness, knowledge, attitude, and cross-cultural skills that lead to effective communication and collaboration across cultural lines, whether involving nationalities, generations, genders, organizations. These are all within this cultural competence. By culture, I don't mean just cross-border, like the country border. Many borders we live in, it intersects, right? For instance, recognizing whether, for example, in Hong Kong, you have so many cultures mixed already. So I've been observing how people do this. The small talk, chit chat in the beginning or the afterwards or in between, right? What small talk actually signifies in different cultures. It could be some kind of a negotiation that might take place within that small talk itself, or it could be just an icebreaker itself. Depends on what background of the people you're talking with and engage in the small talk. You have to know, and you have to decide and see how that goes from there. That kind of sensitivity and adaptability to differences, those are also a much important essence for global employability. So that's the second dimension I talked about. And third one is language skills and communication. That sounds more salient and obvious to you, but I would like to add a little bit more additional note just personally here. International education, that's what I do. I'm an international educator for 16 years in Kansai University now in Division of International Affairs. International education often involves language study, for sure, which is not only improves communication skills, but it has to also provide insights into cultural nuances and essential for global business interactions. right? So that leads into global employability here. Effective communication, when you think about it, it goes beyond language mechanics. It's about cultural nuance, nonverbal signals, and empathy. Cross-cultural missteps such as misreading emotional displays or rely on stereotypes, those can derail negotiation and teamwork. And we have probably stepped on the wrong steps before in our past as well, and we learn by doing and we experience it by the errors. But those build-up of knowledges is important, and it become part of the global employability skills here. So they have to know the skills to actively listen, clarifying assumptions, and tailoring both verbal and nonverbal behaviors from different audiences. Those are part of communication skills. That's included in this third tier. Now, having defined this global employability in my talk, and I'd like to move on to give you a set of questions. In the form of questions, I'm giving you a way to have you to think about the theme I'm addressing here. Step 1, I call it. This question asks, how can we effectively leverage technology to develop those key competencies for global employability? Right? So I'm bringing a technology into my talk as a piece here. Effectively leveraging technology to develop core competencies for global employability means integrating digital tools, not as add-ons, but as immersive experiential catalyst for learning key skills. Evidence shows that when educators embed technologies such as interactive simulations, market spaces, or online collaborative platforms, learners demonstrate measurable improvements in skills like creativity, critical thinking, communication, and problem-solving traits. Those remain high in demand across borders. For international educators like myself included, this means shifting from knowledge delivery to designing authentic tech-enabled experiences that mirror the complexities of a modern workplace. That's a challenge, and how to design is a future challenge for us too. Second question, step 2, is asking us, how can we reimagine the definition of future skills in an era shaped by AI and the digital collaborations? So future skills, not a word that just came out after AI emerges so rapidly. We talked about this before, but are they the same? That's the question. The future skills we talked about before this AI has been so immersed, and now with the AI so immersed around us and technology is rapidly surround us even more, do we need to redefine future skills? And if so, what are they? That's the question here. So redefining the future skills in AI and digital collaboration. This is the AI collaboration-driven era. This is essential. Redefining is essential because the nature of work is fundamentally shifting because of that. From human versus machine, that was traditionally how it used to be. But now it's a human with machine partnership that is expected now. So to remain employable globally, individuals and institutions must ask, which uniquely human skills will remain essential? Skills like critical thinking, adaptability, and so forth. And AI fluency, on top of it, must be elevated from it's nice to have to core competencies now. So only by redefining future skills, the center both technological leverage and human ingenuity, can we equip leaders to thrive in a blended work landscape where AI amplifies, not replaces, the human potential. Now let's go back to the step 1 question first, and then let me address this a little bit. So how we go about that, how to leverage it with technology, and higher education approach to this question. Of course, this is the whole theme of this conference. Couple of approaches, pedagogies that I cannot agree any strongly than this community that promoting this. Virtual exchange, COIL is one, and also blended mobility is another one that the Kansai University, for example, are proceeding with the emphasis now that we can actually do post-COVID time. So these are pretty much a part of the international education as well. So I work on this more with the life work mission. This emphasizes global employability by cultivating digitally savvy, culturally competent, and collaborative global citizens. We are generating that through these pedagogies. And it's not just the Kansai University or Hong Kong Baptist University's concerns. This is really actually the world's concern now. Let me share that with you with the facts. This is a resource that comes from a International Association of Universities sixth survey. And this is providing you a big picture, how the world is associating with what's called in their survey, virtual internationalization. So it's an internationalization, international education with the technologies embedded in their pedagogies. And they categorize that as virtual internationalization, right? So how much of the participating institutions, and the number is a little bit lower there, 722 higher educational institutions in 100 countries answered to the survey. And the result was a 77%, and this is a few years back now, so it could be the increased number of respondents affirm that their institution's engagement with virtual internationalization is happening. Right, maybe the 23% already joined in already in the past 2 years as well. So virtual internationalization is pretty much a part, an essential part of what university do. In the same survey, they also asked this question. So within the virtual internationalization, there are many things you can do, and making digital modalities a part of the practices. What do they do as methodology-wise? And the answer was that virtual exchange they engaged in is 69% or more. They do a COIL, 60% more, and other online preparatory courses, 56%, and not so much on the MOOCs anymore. It's still some there, but the MOOCs not the trend. The point is the COIL virtual exchange is coming on the top priority. So the world is actually attending to this as adapting the practice as virtual internationalization. Another key data from the same survey of a virtual exchange. So the ones that were doing virtual exchange, and it's asking who's engaging in COIL or virtual exchange globally. Participants are mostly doing this in the higher educational level, 63.2% in post-secondary, and 7.2% in graduate or postgraduate, and 9.4% in high school. So definitely this is a university endeavor, and it's starting to be expanding more to the lower level and also the postgraduate level. That's an interesting trend that's happening in the world. Taking the closest illustration in point for this vein of topic here, from my own institution, Kansai University, we are pursuing an initiative called JIG at the moment. It stands for Japan Hub for Innovative Global Education. This is a government-endorsed and funded program that started in fall 2023, all the way through 2028, so 5-year interval. And this led by my university, Kansai University, but with the 2 other Japanese universities, so Chiba University and Tohoku University, so 3 universities in collaboration. And the purpose of this initiative is designed to build a next generation of global ready talent. It ranges from high school students all the way to early career professionals. Those are the target within this initiative, offering specialized virtual learning ecosystems that integrates COIL, and accrediting their achievements. So we're developing micro-credentials based on the COIL experience and the blended mobility experiences, which I will explain a little bit more later. The overseas partners, in addition to our local Japanese 3 universities, were engaged with what you see with over 30 partner universities, US, non-US, many different parts of the world that are joining in. Some of the universities are the speakers for this conference as well. they are coming in and engaged in what we're doing. And we're pursuing this initiative within this initiative, that this method, not just the virtual exchange core, but also adding that physical mobility as another option to add to. And we're benchmarking how Europe is doing through an Erasmus Plus program. They call it blended mobility, and we're taking that in and arrange it to suit our students' needs here. So blended mobility, as you can see in the slide, it combines the virtual component and the physical component as in activities. So online at Kansai, of course, the online, you can do many things, but we're emphasizing on collaborative learning modules, virtual internships through a virtual exchange method, and then giving them a digital micro-credentials as accreditation. And on-site, we have the intensive field work. It can be typically 10 to 14 days, and or they can also engage in internships on site as well. So with the combination of the two, they were able to actually start early before they're going to physical target destination. They're ready to learn, and they actually do actual learning that they can actually only do in immersive experience, which is to study abroad, actual physical site learning. Then come back again, and they do a sharing and feedback with each other, reflections again online. So it's a sandwiching with online, COIL, right, and the on-site, and then there's online. So sandwich method is the blended mobility that we are proceeding with this initiative. We've taken them to many places. We're showing you just snippets of the pictures from the past ones that has been finished, and we're repeating those programs again. This one is with the Singapore, with the NUS, and there is an organization called Asia Europe Foundation within the NUS campus. So we worked with them. We've done online first, right? And then have them to assign them a project on SDGs, obviously, and then they actually did the field work in Singapore for the 14 days that they were there. And they collaborated with the universities in Singapore also to work on that, okay? And we have many universities from US, they're collaborating through this initiative also, and this is just the picture and the final end of it with this whole blended mobility program. We're done with Clemson University in South Carolina in US, and they came to Japan. And this is an interesting year-long program, which I don't have a slide to explain to you, but this takes place about 2 months of online collaboration, online first, and then they come to a Kansai University, the Clemson students, and they spend 2 months again on site. This is a lab internship. This is the STEM students we're talking about. And then they go back. And now Kansai University students going to Clemson this time, and they spend 2 months in the lab. So same way physically, 2 months, 2 months. And then they go back again to online and finishing up their project. So it's a year-long program. So they ended up writing up a paper. So professors are quite happy with this program because they get to have the research output coming out. So there's the incentive there for professors, and also what a wonderful experience, right, for STEM students. Language is a challenge for them, but we use the AI for a language to actually resolve. So this is a technology-enhanced research project in the STEM field in COIL. It's a very interesting one. We've done multilateral project like that in the Singapore, Japan, Thailand, those 3 countries programs. That's also possible. Physically, they're close by as well, but I mean, they are engaged in multilateral collaboration. And then they can go, half of them went to Singapore and half of them went to Thailand, actually did the field work afterwards. Okay. All right, so these are pretty much pictures of all the blended mobility that we have done. And, oh, sorry, we're going back to this one. Speaking of digital competence, along with those program, the blended mobility program that we do, JRGE, this initiative, the Kansai University, leveraging a technology, advanced technologies. And what you see on those pictures is a on the left upper corner that you see on the slide, this is what we call global smart classrooms. We built that smart classrooms in all campuses that we have, so they have the more easy access to high flex or hybrid interaction with each other. Be it at different campuses in Japan, or it could be in the international partners. And we have 360-degree video feed applications that we use for our students' resources for collaboration. We also use the metaverse, right? And avatars. They're engaging in the collaboration through the metaverse space as well. So those are some of the things that we're experimenting and see how students react to. But those are advanced technology that are embedded in for a virtual exchange practices. We're trying to cultivate their competencies, right? The many competencies all at once, and technology definitely is a digital fluency, is definitely one of them. So having said that, just to digress a little bit, but I think it's very much appropriate to talk about in this particular conference. I wanted to talk about how this practice like core and virtual exchange stay, and how is it going to be appreciated in today's world. So 2025, when you think about it, there were such things called COVID and pandemic time, and then there was such time called post-pandemic time. I think we have gone through that all over the world. And now in 2025, I would say post-pandemic is not quite doing the accurate a description of how we are now. It's almost like a post-pandemic. We're beyond that already, but we haven't forgotten that we've gone through that. So I'm calling it post-pandemic, PPP or PPC, post-COVID, whatever you want to call it, that phase. And what is the positioning of core virtual exchange? It's a good question that I think we should revisit and see the value, why we're doing or why we want to promote this practice. So I wanted to address some of the things that the Kansai University and also myself also consider that, yes, it's still important, it's still has a value. Why? I want to share that some of the points with you. Online international education is to stay because inclusive accessibility to international education is still an issue, right? It was an issue before pandemic. It is still an issue post-pandemic. So we need to actually resolve that challenge, and COIL, a virtual exchange, those virtual internationalization definitely is to give you some answers. Number of students who are studying abroad in the world. Can you guess the number of how many students in the world, just totally, the university level, are doing study abroad? There's some statistics up there. It's updating it each year. It's actually 6.4 million people, students are studying abroad, which sounds good, right? It's definitely an increase. But when you think about how many students at a higher education level in the world there are, the number is actually 245 million students are university kids. So you do the math, 2.6% is the only ones who actually get to study abroad. What about the 98% here, right? They need international experience. How do we do that? That's still a challenge, regardless of post-pandemic or post-pandemic or pandemic or even before. So core virtual exchange still to inclusive education for international education is there. COIL also, coming back to this global employability that I'm addressing in this talk, is definitely giving you many skills that we want to cultivate for students. Essential soft skills, creativity, innovation, collaboration, adaptability, cognitive flexibility, all these skills that you want to make sure even strongly more with this given time, that is trainable through this particular practice. At the same time, participants build critical digital competence because COIL cannot be done without technology. So it is only one in solution in terms of design. You have to do it carefully design. You have to do it with the right minds and also right skills in terms of facilitators, etc. All those come together. But this is a practice that actually generating students to be future ready. Let me discuss this from another illustration here. The working styles today. Not sure how things are happening in Hong Kong now, today with the post-pandemic time. Maybe people are already back in the office and face-to-face, very analog way, the back to normal. But people are shifting in the world as a trend that we are having the option of work from home, right? And then that shifted to actually work from anywhere. So that's WFA, from WFH to WFA. And in fact, I taught my class yesterday from Hong Kong to my own school, right? Work from anywhere, which has a good parts and bad parts, to be honest, but however, you can do it, right? Now, I'm adding another one. If you can actually work from anywhere, and the technology like AI or language barriers and all these things going to be resolved, and then you should be able to work with anyone. Language is not an excuse anymore, right? Then work from anywhere gives you so much more of skills that you need to add to your student or yourself as a globally employable, right? So this is the future skills that we're addressing now. This is why practice like experiences through virtual exchange is very essential. And I would actually wanted to add this one again. This is a new one. I haven't talked in nowhere else, but I think it's really good timely thing to talk about. I'll do this very carefully. This, as shown here, I just listed some of the happenings, developments right now. This is more focused on the immigration policy changes or developments happening in the major countries, okay? I'm not going to be talking about the details, but as you can see, they are becoming restrictive in many parts of the world. And I think you all agree to this. So if the immigration policy is being restrictive, and then that has direct impact on higher education, particularly for international educators, if you're only dwelling on the study abroad, crossing borders physically, right? So student mobility, the physical student mobility will decline in those countries, most likely, at front. Who knows what happens after? Then you think about those countries, aren't they the ones most what's called import-heavy countries that people want to go and they wanted to have more students incoming, but this is happening in their countries. So this context also makes me think of, virtual exchange, right? This gives a greater demand again for alternative models like the coiled and virtual exchange, which allow international learning without crossing borders. Physical borders may be shut, but virtual internationalization will not interfere with the closed borders. So again, it's not the COVID time, but this is another environment happening in the world that might actually give a highlight to this particular practice. So step one, done. Step two, we bring it on to the second question I addressed earlier. How can we reimagine the definition of future skills? And then the previous talk that I just mentioned gives you a little bit of a highlight to that, but I'll revisit a little bit. And I wanted to bring you this example to think about this second question. This is an article that I found just accidentally coming from a online article called University World News. How many of you read that? I'm not sure, but I visit it every once in a while. And then I found this one is intriguing, really relevant to what I'm talking about. This is an article written by a professor, not myself, in the United States, I think, that had this. She's done a lecture, and one day this professor in her class actually asked her this. She said, the student said, I asked ChatGPT to help me map out my argument in an assignment that she submitted it, right? Then I used the AI tool to visualize the data and then had the Grammarly to polish the writing with my guidance, okay? And she submitted it. And she says in the end, I know it's still my work. It's mine, but does it count as mine? It's my work, but does it count as mine? Because so much reliance to all the AI technologies that she embedded it in. And some of you are nodding, and I'm sure online are nodding too. This happens to you already, right? So what would you respond to the student question? This is that future skill redefinement that what I'm talking about here. And I found this. Another article coming from this one is Harvard Business Review. This is a nice illustration that AI should augment human intelligence, not to replace it. The authors argue that, and I join in agreement, in fact, that in addition to artificial intelligence, that's all we talk about, right? And human intelligence we talk about also, but we should have the third category, which we should focus more today, that combines the two, augmented intelligence. Let me talk a little bit more about that. Augmented intelligence refers to collaborative partnership between humans and intelligent technologies. It emphasizes decision support. So AI provides insights, human makes judgments. Cognitive enhancement, AI helps humans think more deeply and broadly, right? And thirdly, co-creation. So human and machine jointly produce outputs, right? Unlike AI only, which often seeks full automation, augmented intelligence that I'm talking about here aims to enhance human capacities, capabilities, not to replace them. Let's explore key 3 competencies highlighted here, and there could be more list of it, but I just wanted to give you highlights. Augmented intelligence. Definitely when you actually put the scope on this, it redefines global employability. AI enhanced decision making. This refers to ability to leverage AI tools like the predictive analytics, dashboards, and decision support systems, etc., to inform and shape strategic choices. The research already showed that when humans and AI collaborate, efficiency and decision accuracy improve. So that's already there. Second one, human judgment and ethics. Augmented intelligence emphasizes the indispensable role of human value and ethics. This is, I think, it's very critical to remind ourselves. While AI can process patterns in data, the humans must ensure decisions remain fair, transparent, and aligned with the moral considerations. That's a human's responsibility. And third one, co-creation with technology. This competency involves working symbiotically with generative AI tools for ideation, design, content creation, coding, etc. Rather than replacing humans, AI becomes a creative partner, suggesting new options while humans guide, evaluate, and refine. So go back to the student question. Yes, it is yours, because it's augmented intelligence. And the student who asked that question, is that count as mine? She certainly developed very high augmented intelligence, in my opinion, right? So that's the answer there. Now, having the 2 questions done, and I wanted to bring in another one. This is the last one I'm going to bring. So these discussions thus far bring us to think about this one. The question further that we should ask is to us educators. How should education evolve to effectively nurture argument intelligence in future leaders and professionals? Right? This question matters deeply because we're not just teaching concepts, but redefining human-AI partnership if we're going for augmented intelligence, right? So as AI becomes an integrated collaborator rather than a tool, education must shift from automatically delivering content to cultivating complementary human strength. So this means that one of the transformation that we need to address is the educators must face this now, is to shift from emergency remote teaching or a tech skill training, which we had experienced through the pandemic and after, shift to augmentation readiness, so digitally augmented ecosystem of learning. That needs to be addressed. In the same article, the one that talked about the student asking, does that still count as mine? she also argues with this one, and I really like this category, and I like actually to elaborate more further. Pedagogy of augmentation. That this this is rest on a simple but transformative premise. The students are already thinking in partnership with the AI and machines, technologies. So we need this pedagogy of augmentation. The role of education in this pedagogy is not to resist this reality. The reality is here, but to help students navigate it with intentionality, critical awareness, and ethical clarity. That's something we need to add on as a part of the curriculum. In today's world, AI isn't just for computer scientists, it's universal and it's a co-pilot in our lives now. And in any subject areas, not just in a computer science, the AI should be a partner or collaborator in learning through that subject. By weaving AI across all subjects, we shape the learners who can adeptly collaborate with intelligent systems, not just the memorizing facts. Educators like us should design scenarios where the students weigh AI suggestions against the ethical considerations, fostering critical and moral reasonings, foundational for trustworthy, inclusive AI use. And this is a more of an exploring area, but I wanted to give you some of what's out there available that challenging towards this augmented intelligence training. I wanted to give you some examples that's existing in the world. Some of you might have more examples than I'm giving it to you today, but just here are some. What are some examples of augmented pedagogies? This one coming from a Case Western Reserve in Cleveland Clinic. This has a 485,000 square foot health education campus they built. Lots of money, of course. A space designed to support interprofessional learning and offer the most advanced technology available. So as you can see here, that you are learning on the brain, internal brain systems through VR and XR, right? Another may be more familiar to you. Some of you maybe have experienced it before already, using immersive intercultural learning devices, right? And you can do many things with it. We've done a trial before. The student visits, say, for example, refugee camps in Jordan, right? You can't really send them to refugee camps, but you can put them in there in immersive experience this way. Or you can do a UNESCO World Heritage tour through VR, etc. And the focus is not that they learn how to use VR. That's not the focus we're talking about. We're talking about the skills to nurture their cultural empathy, put their shoe, they put themselves into somebody else's shoe. That's the VR is useful, building their global citizenship element and also perspective taking skills. This is coming from Spain, Madrid. It's an IE business school. And they have a global classroom called Windows of the World. It's called Wow Room, which started before pandemic time. So to this day use that. Technology is not anymore wow anymore. It's just been around anywhere and many access to it now. But their resulting teaching pedagogical philosophy they call it liquid learning. That's an interesting one. The school says it's designed to support dynamic lives and unique needs of students, an emerging, unpredictable, fluid, and fast-changing world. So this liquid learning itself, that perspective of it is definitely augmented pedagogy. And you can also use the metaverse, as we have been exploring at the Kansai University through COIL virtual exchange practices. That can count as well. This one is a snippet from a virtual internship that we are doing from the past 2 years now. So Japanese and Chinese student team as an intern group working for a company in Japan, all right? They're giving a remote internship, so they don't go physically, but they do this virtually in this metaverse space. And they have the AI mounted language translation there. So they don't have to speak in English or any other language. The company owners certainly do not speak Chinese or English. So they're doing it in Japanese, but they were able to actually communicate with each other So the internship is done with that, giving that multilingual context. Again, the skills are focused here is collaboration skills, creative problem skill, solving skills, and global teamwork skills. So those are a global employability, highly relevant skills. And just a recent discovery. Some of you might know this more than I do. I would love to learn more about it. This is a university in Mumbai, India. It's called Universal AI University. Originally, this university was founded in 2009 as a university business school, but now it became India's first dedicated AI university in 2023. That's very recent development. This private institution specializing in embedding artificial intelligence into a core academic fabric. So any programs, practical undergraduate, postgraduate, doctor programs across disciplines, complements by hands-on labs in AR, VR, Internet of Things, blockchain, and more. Super exciting. How they're going to be generating the human talents out of this program, because 2023 is yet to foresee, but this is happening, guys, right? So the rest of us, what are we going to do? That's a question that it's asking me, at least, how to transform. So how are we doing on time here? We'll probably have to close up pretty soon. Yeah. I will skip on this part and move on to last part of it. Okay, so this part of it. So transformation of education is something that I wanted to leave ourselves as a question. How soon can we do it? So Mumbai, University of Mumbai has done it, moved on, and they have, with pros and cons of it, but they have actually moved on to transform themselves, which is great. How soon can we, as a higher education existing presently in different parts of the world, how soon can we do it? How can we move on to next education? This one is defined as education 5.0, which is the part that I skipped, but this is talking about new form, new transformation of education. How soon can we do it? It really depends on several factors. I'm quite aware, mindful of that. That includes leadership will, right? Policy frameworks, digital infrastructure, faculty capacity, and culture readiness. Those are very much the pains that we face. But however, those need to come in to change bring in the transformation. So one step at a time, we need to work on each of them. And if you work on it, it's possible, but it's not going to happen automatically. So by just implementing technology doesn't create a transformation of education. That's the point. It has to be intentional action, and that must take place. There should be a common thread of a mission that will be coming through all divisions within universities. Intentional actions. And that's so hard, right? But we should be asking the question ourselves, can higher educational institution change? But even further to say, can we afford not to change? When we think about the urgent need for transformation, given the global employability in the digital age, as talked about today, is on demand, can we afford not to? So with that, I'll conclude my talk. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Ikeda. And we know that there are a lot of possibilities is arising then, even it is like post-pandemic era, then we were having a lot of things too can go along the pathway for virtual exchange. We're excited that we hear that also like virtual exchange internship, and also even for like something that would be going ahead. Now we open the floor for questions. So so if you have questions, and also for our audience online, please do type in your questions and we will be accommodated shortly. But first of all, we have someone on site. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Professor Ikeda. Thank you, Anna, for the opportunity to ask a question. I'm an English language teacher, and I'm fascinated by the internship example you shared, where students can communicate with their peers, beyond the language barrier using the assistance of AI. So this AI facilitated conversation could potentially completely change the foreign language education landscape.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what you have observed once language is no longer the communicative barrier because we can rely on AI for instant translation. What are some of the communicative challenges the students encountered when they try to work in a transnational team?
Yeah, good
Thank you.
question. And the language teachers and language education have to keep dialoguing about this for sure. So that's a good question to address. In one way, to a certain level, language barrier is gone, yes. But I would not say it's all the way either. So say, for example, perspective taking, empathy, right? Those are pretty much still needs a human touch in addition to. So they can actually do more by having the AI assistance in language, multilingual context. However, they need to have ability to have perspective taking, empathy, and more communication elements I talked about in the very early on as a global employability. That's still a human skill. So foreign language teachers need to address those. So instead of saying you can't use ChatGPT, you can't use AI in this class, rather than banning it, use it, right? And then how else what humans like the students need to do in order to effectively bring the project going or discuss on particular topics. For that element of competence still needs to be trained. So classrooms are doing something else completely different from, say, oh, let's learn 50 new words today, or how to write that in characters. Those things are gone. You don't need to do that, but something else.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
For online audience.
Okay. If I could ask a follow-up question on that, and you've touched on the thing that I really actually very curious about. I'm from the Netherlands, so I'm very aware of the Erasmus Plus program,
Right.
and I'm involved in a couple of projects there. That's drying up, so I'm just wondering if you're aware of that.
The BIP.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, but that's beside the point. My curiosity stems from the whole idea of cultural nuances. I'm very lucky to have lived in many different countries where I learned 6 different languages. And I can tell you that if I didn't live in those countries, I wouldn't be able to learn those nuances. So I'm just wondering, how are you supposed to use AI? And I'm not opposed to the use of AI.
Yep.
Just how exactly is AI going to enable people who use AI for language to understand and learn these nuances when they're not in the country itself? Or
I'm not an AI developer, but they're working on the nuances part, and then they learn as they go, as I was told. We're using this AI application called Cuckoo or something like that. And then I was told by the application provider that more you use it, that they'll get the actual, styles and nuances as you talk about,
Right.
that they learn, the AI actually learns and picks up on your styles more, so that suits your ways. So AI itself has a learning function,
Sure.
so that might be something that in a technology rapidly develops that might have a solution to it. But to this day, of course, the nuances are not going to be covered 100%. And, that's again, going back to what I just said to the previous question, human intelligence has to be there along with it. So argumented is, once again, coming back to my argument here, it needs to be together.
Actually, I actually really agree with that, the augmented
Yeah.
intelligence, and I think that's a very good way of putting it. But then I'm just wondering also if, so I'm dominating the conversation. I promise this is the last comment I'm going to make, but it does sound like that you're placing the responsibility on the users rather than the software developers on how AI adapts and learns.
If you want to call it responsibility, I mean, that's the part that the students need to learn though, right? Then this is the where the responsibility of the educator come in as well. If they don't have to do anything, if the AI solves everything, why do they need it in the classroom? What are we doing, right? So that part is something that we need to be addressing it. But the question is, are we addressing that already in the curriculum we already have in university? Obviously, we don't. So that's the part, the transformation that needs to take place. So I completely agree with you, and you're spot on the things that's in the gap there. And that's the gap, the potentially that educators have to be addressing it right at the moment. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Keiko, for a very informative and very thought-provoking
Thank you.
talk. And it's raised lots of issues, lots of questions. I have two very brief ones in response to some of the things you've been talking about. One is around this notion of augmented intelligence, because the term to augment, by definition, means that we keep what we build on something that's already there and to some extent keep it. So my question to you is, what do we lose in the process? So I think given the context of empowering future leaders as our focus, future leaders not only need to be thinking about the future, but also what we mustn't be losing. So there was something around that, what can we hold on to our ability, for example, reading a map? I mean, it's sat-nav now, but I mean, can most of us still read a map? I mean, do we need to even read a map? I guess is the other question. So that's the one around augmented intelligence. And the other one, it relates more to equity. And I heard in some of the talks yesterday, people were talking about finding suitable partners. And it was very interesting to look at some of your partnerships, and you talk about Case Western Reserve, Cleveland Clinic, wonderful. Wouldn't we all like to partner up with them? But how about partnering in the other direction? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if the learning takes place when we're most challenged, we need to be thinking about the equity involved in the way that we not just the how, but the who we do this with, which kind of links into the digital divide. And of course, maybe in some rural areas, they're not going to have the tech for this. So how is it that we can ensure equity? How can future leaders ensure that equity and even find future leaders within those communities?
Right. Address the last one first. I think there's a lot there, and the reason why is I think the first question is pretty much bigger dialogue than this my talk itself. But I think it's interesting question that I think continue discussion about. But the first one, that second one, the equity part of it, it's complex. But for this digital divide and all that. Based on my experience, just sharing with, I can only share what I have experienced in the past to answer that, addressing that. The virtual exchange practice is beautiful because the fact that you can't do this, you can't dance without a partner. That's the thing. So if that other side, the partner doesn't have that environment that you have, you can't play, you can't do this. So we have actually had a buy-in from the top management to allow us to share the license that we have at universities, to actually allow the students on the other side. This is more developing countries, for example, and in universities, they actually have access to our digital applications for free. Why? Because our students are benefiting from it because they get to actually learn together. That's the whole point. So there's some resolution to the equity part of it, more realistic one maybe, to how do you bring the equity, right, to the actual operations. So that's one thing I would mention. I mean, it can't go from philosophical response to all the way to practical responses. And mine is more of a practical one, but we have to go one by one on it. And we haven't actually have collaborated with, say, for example, advanced countries, but also the developing countries. And then, you know what, the counseling with students are benefiting more actually from engaging with students who are in so-called developing countries. So north, south, whatever the divide, those are things. It's in a virtual exchange world, it's really more of, it's not the different, it's not the same. So the first question, try to keep a track on what I was talking about. Yes, what are we forget? What can we actually forget? That's a good question. In order to augment, though, in my view, the human intelligence, it's a plus equals, right? So the human intelligence, the basic human intelligence needs to be cultivated and nurtured rigorously as they grow up. So in not the adult learning concept, maybe all the way up to the adult learning, they have to be able to, yes, they have to be able to read the map. They have to do the math, basic stuff, without having an AI assisting them to add numbers. Those trainings, basic human intelligence, human development has to be there in order to do. So not much to forget on those areas, but do we need to, some of the things that we're asking students to say, rote memorization, and many spending hours and hours on time and they're doing, do they need to do that anymore? That might be something that we can go forget about it, because enhancement with the artificial intelligence will assist you, right? So it's depends on discipline and on different competencies, but there are some things that you don't have to spend so much time on anymore. But the basic component, for example, like the reading maps, I would argue that still have to be there, but not in an adult learning level. That's as far as I can go, and I'm open to welcome to everybody else to jump in and talk about this, because I don't have a good, perfect answer. So what can we forget? It's a very interesting topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the very enlightening questions. So we hope that we have longer time to continue with the discussion, but then it's coming to very shortly. We need to start with another panel. So thank you so much for joining today, and wish that as educators we are walking through the road and to make use of technology to advance our future leaders in any possible ways through globalization and virtual exchanges. So thank you everyone for joining the Keynote Session. And once again, thank you, Professor Keiko Ikeda, for joining us today. We are honored to have you joining us in person.